Hello and welcome to Occupied Thoughts, a podcast brought to you by the Foundation for Middle East Peace. I am Sarah Ann Minkin, Director of Programs and Partnerships at the Foundation. Today is April 11th, 2025, and I am so happy to be here again with my friend Ali Awad. Ali is a writer and activist from the village of Tuba in Masafer Yatta, which is in the South Hebron Hills in the West Bank. If you're a longtime listener to Occupied Thoughts, and thank you if you are, you've heard Ali on here before. Hopefully, you've also read his excellent writing in 972 Magazine, the New York Times, and Haaretz, and on the Humans of Masafer Yatta Instagram and Substack. We have links to many of Ali's articles on our landing page, so check them out. Ali, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and for hosting me and inviting me to talk through your podcast. And thank you so much. So nice to be with you always and again.
Always and again, thank you. So we're here today. I urgently wanted to speak with you for the podcast because of the newest wave of violent attacks against the people in Masafer Yatta, attacks by Israeli settlers and soldiers, which have targeted many villages, including yours, and many families, including yours. And I'm going to ask you about the increasing attacks in Masafer Yatta. But I am also going to ask you to talk to us about life in Masafer Yatta, about your family, about the communities, about how life continues in such incredibly difficult conditions. And so I actually want to start by asking you, Ali, how was your day today? Tell us about your day.
Yeah, so life in Masafer Yatta, like Masafer Yatta, which is about like dozens of villages. We are shepherds and farmers, and our life is relying on working on the land and grazing our flocks. So actually, yeah, today was a good day, and every day that is not that we are not like receiving or facing any attacks or harassment or violence, it's actually a good day, because of the many days that we are dealing with harassment and violence. The day that we don't have that, we only focus to live our own life. We just steal like this day out of the year in order to enjoy and to live. I mean, to go ahead and work like with our sheep, and to feel how actually our life looks like before the occupation, and how the life of our ancestors used to be here. Today, the like was really a very good day, a breezy and windy day, a little bit sunny, not so hot, not so cold. And I spent like the whole afternoon and the day, even from the noon time, being with my family, feeding our flocks and helping with like milking the sheep, and like giving milk to the babies of the newborn lambs. So and we had a time where we like every time we gather together for lunch, for dinner, and this is what we have done today with my grandma, with my uncles, and we had tea while having breaks of the work. Luckily, while even being enjoying this, we wanted like this enjoyment and this normal life of being with our sheep to continue. We are being aware of any moment that we might be attacked by settlers or settlers harassment getting into inside our village. But so glad, I'm so happy now that this didn't happen today, and we just had a very quiet time and a very quiet day.
I'm so
Yeah.
glad too. Thank you. Thank you for describing that to us with your family and with the sheep and the tea breaks and the meals. And I want to ask you a little bit more about your family and about Tuba. Can you tell us a little bit about your family's history in that village? You recently took photographs, gorgeous photographs, for a piece that was written by a woman named Manal Shker. She wrote a piece called Starving Palestine, Israeli Colonialism and the Struggle for Food Sovereignty in Masafer Yatta. We're going to have a link to it on the homepage. And the piece looks at the people of Masafer Yatta and their relationships to the land and animals and food. So people can, I'm bringing this piece up because people can read more about what you've just described. And she talks about this this long way, centuries of a complex system. She says, I'm quoting, a complex system of socioeconomic relations, values, and knowledge that determine the people's modes of beings and acting in the world. That's how she talks about the people in Masafer Yatta and their relationships to the land. And so I want to ask you, Ali, in your own words, to talk to us a little bit about your family's history in Masafer Yatta and about the values and the knowledge that you draw from your family and from living on the land.
Yeah, so talking like about the history of my family living in Tuba, first of all, the two of my grandparents, the father and the mother of my father, the parents of my father, they are both from the same Awad family, and they were both born in the village of Tuba. My grandfather in 42 and my grandmother in 1948. They were born in the village of Tuba in Masafer Yatta. And the last one that started the village and living here, exactly here, it was their grandfather, the great grandfather of my grandfather, which like takes us like to like more than like a century back that my family lives here. And even before, their grandfather was like moved to live here from a nearby area to separate from his cousins and from the other family to be independent with his family. So he arrived to live and started to dig caves, living in Tuba. So like the environment of where you live are even like the natural environment or the political environment, whatever it shapes like the humans to be able to stand for like to survive. So this village, like this area, the area of Masafer Yatta, it's an area about fields, about pastoral hills. So this environment shaped them to be able to survive from grazing and working the land. So my family has been always shepherds and farmers. They work the land to usually because of the lack of the water, depending on the cultivation, on the rain, they usually do like the cultivation where they can also do some plants and as well to graze their sheep, so they can actually survive by from these plants and also survive from grazing the sheep on these plants. So the village, like talking about like the history, as I said, this is how my family has been always living here, and this is where I was also until today born and raised in the village of Tuba. Talking about like the area of Masafer Yatta, historically, like Masafer Yatta, when we start to describe it, is located geographically in the last area of the South Hebron Hills in the south of the West Bank. We are about like dozens of villages that all, as we said, like villages of shepherds and farmers. Together, we as villages like made up the area that's called Masafer Yatta. And part of like this life continued to be until the occupation started, and then since then until today, we as people from Palestinians living in Masafer Yatta, we are living under the threat of the forced displacement and many attempts that already took place against us, and we were kicked. So describing of the history of Masafer Yatta and the challenges, especially under the occupation. Masafer Yatta, as I said, it's part of the West Bank. It fell under the Israeli occupation in 1967, and since then, as Masafer Yatta is the open area that connects to the city of Yatta in 1967, in the middle of us where we are in Masafer Yatta and the city of Yatta, the Israeli occupation have built few military bases. And in the 80s, they started with the idea of how to bring settlers and to build settlements and to replace these villages of Masafer Yatta with Israeli settlements by expanding and turning these military bases into settlements, and also by kicking the Palestinians out of these villages and turn them into Israeli-only settlements. So they started with the policies of how to expand the settlement and how to destroy the Palestinian villages. Exactly in the 80s, they turned the military bases into settlements. In the same time, they designated our villages, which is Tuba and another 12 in total, around these military bases in the what's so-called the firing zone, which is a clear attempt that was admitted and by some Israeli officials, that's it's a point where they can use the army in order to as an excuse to evacuate us from our homes. So in the 80s, they designated our homes as a firing zone. In the 99, they physically, by force, they put the 12 villages and the residents of these 12 villages with their properties in military trucks, and they erased the whole area of Masafer Yatta, the part that is declared as a firing zone, including myself when I was 1 year old, including my family and another 700 people. We were all thrown with our properties. Actually, the properties of my family was not even thrown out, it was confiscated until today. Like when I was 1 year old, something that I lived and I didn't feel, I don't remember that we were left homeless, even with refugees tents we had. They were confiscated from our hands and from above our heads. Our food, our the like the water tanks, everything of my family specifically was confiscated until today, not even given back. So later we moved like to the high court, like few months after this confiscation and this forced displacement. We had the only solution was that we have to take the military and to go to the Israeli Supreme Court, and the Israeli Supreme Court will decide for us, like for who has the right to on this land. Even like it is an actual unjust that to put us and the army together, the army that is trying to evacuate us and us as owners of the lands, to be together in a legal battle to see who actually has the right over the land. But it was clear that and today, especially after October 7th, today in 2025, it was even clear and more clear that the idea of declaring our houses as firing zone was actually to expand the settlements and to ethnically cleanize the Palestinians from their land. Back in the year 2000, just a few months after we were evacuated, we started the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said that we can go back to Tuba and the other 12 villages on total with an interim injunction until the judge will have a final ruling in the case. After we started the Supreme Court, uh, like we started in the Supreme Court case, few Israeli outposts was expanded from the settlement that was built back in the 80s inside the borders of the firing zone. So here the army and the occupation and also the court wanted to know how they can actually evacuate the Palestinians, but not these settlements that showed up after the case actually started. So it took 12 years to give the first hearing, which was actually by designating the whole area of the firing zone into dry and active. The dry area that the army claimed that they give up where the settlements and the outposts showed up, and the active area was only Palestinian villages. So this is the army that wants to have training there, but where the outposts were built, they don't want to have a training anymore there. So they accepted the appeal of the area where the settlers are living in the firing zone and rejected the appeal of the area where we are as Palestinian villages. Until another like we started another hearing, and it took us until May 4th, 2025, and then the army and the judge decided to give the green light to the military to wherever they can decide to make a room for training. They can open like they put like our fate in the hand of the army by giving the army the green light to train whenever they want. They can decide to remove us from our homes and hold live ammunition training. So this is like how the area of Masafer Yatta has been in all under the title of ethnic cleansing the Palestinians from this area since the occupation started, and to replace the Palestinians with Israeli settlements and Israeli settlers. Different policies, but all together leads into one goal, which is unfortunately the ethnically cleansing the Palestinians. So
Ali,
this is how the yeah.
keep, no, you can finish your sentence, please.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's it.
Okay. Thank you for all of that. That was such a thorough history of Masafer Yatta and of this particular of the trajectory of what has been happening since the Israeli occupation of the West Bank began in 1967 and the declaration of the firing zone in the 1980s, the creation of of, of Israeli military camps that then became settlements, and especially as you described your family's expulsion in 1999 when you were 1 year old, and then this fight through the Israeli Supreme Court where your family lived for more than 20 years, your family and the other 12 villages in the firing zone lived for more than 20 years in this precarious place, this place of in-betweenness, of the temporary injunction where you could live on your land, but you were waiting for the decision from the Supreme Court. And that decision came, I think, if I'm not mistaken, in the spring of 2022. And when they decided that the Israeli Supreme Court decided that the Israeli military could fully expel you, and you no longer have any legal recourse. So you described all of that to us so well. It's so that the way that you said it, that there are many different policies and many different mechanisms, but they all lead towards the forcible transfer, the ethnic cleansing of the people who live in this area. You just described all of that to us. And so I want to ask you, I mean, you have been facing violence, this kind of violence your entire life since the expulsion when you were 1 year old. And I want and the threats of violence, and you've written about this so much, and we've hosted you before and talked about this. I want to ask you specifically to talk about what it has been like since October 7th. You wrote a fantastic piece in the New York Times in November of 2023. It was titled, "Many West Bank Palestinians are being forced out of their villages. Is my family next?" And I want to ask you, at that
Yeah.
time, there were 16 villages across the West Bank where people had been forced out after October 7th by state-backed settler violence. That was a year and a half ago already. So tell us about what's changed, please, Ali, since October 7th.
Yeah, so the actually like since October 7th, the violence, especially the settler violence on the hands of the settlers, especially I mean, of course, backed up like with the military and with the state. It has been like they supported like how to actually make the settlers displace the Palestinians. Like we are talking, I mean, since Oslo Accords until today, there is this 60% that was declared as or classified as Area C. So most of the like where we are in Masafer Yatta, and this Area C that is 10% of it is designated as a firing zone. So all of these like policies now, that like the settlers movements and that want like to empty this 60% of the West Banks of the Palestinians, owners of the land and owners of the villages. So the like especially like even from COVID until today, the what was started is the establishment of the agricultural outposts. These the settlers found out that they can build like farms randomly, taking very big areas of this of that surrounds the Palestinian communities in Area C. These settlers will have ATVs, like they will be armed, and also they have like their own flocks of sheep, and also stealing sheep from the Palestinian communities. So from one part, they will have these sheep in order to destroy the crops of the Palestinians, so the Palestinians will lose their economy. They will also use these sheep to terrorize the Palestinians and to be the threat for the Palestinians, that we at any time we can come and steal your sheep, so that the Palestinians will lose the hope, will lose the security, will lose like that, will lose everything that can really make them being able to stay in the villages, and then it will cause them to flee out of these villages. So this is how the settlers are actually in like succeeding in ethnically cleansing the Palestinians from Area C. So talking after October 7th, the most dangerous thing that happened, that these settlers that before October 7th were known for their violence against the Palestinians as civilian settlers. After October 7th, they were reserved to the military, and some of them were part of the military to become like soldiers, official soldiers. You know that some of the people that were known, those settlers that were known for like uh, carrying out violence with their hands against the Palestinians, they became the ones that supposed to enforce the law between the settlers and the Palestinians in Area C in the West Bank. So they used this advantage that they got after October 7th in order to be able to arrest the Palestinians, and also what like to prevent the Palestinians from accessing the land. So in the last like even two seasons, like this one at the end of 2024 and the one that is the end of 2023, the time where we start like cultivate our fields, we have lost like dozens of thousands of dunums of land that we used to cultivate. In the meantime, those soldiers, with the help of even the official army that is not settlers but army soldiers, they all together in tandem, they help like the settlers to prevent us from accessing this land, and then the settlers will randomly take it over by building random new outposts and random new tents. So this the escalation of the violence, and they see now like we as Palestinians living under the like threat of the settlers in daily basis in the West Bank. They have like actively like want to be present in front of our houses and everywhere. Like for example, what happened that they organized on the January 25th, my house, like my car, that I was as an activist. I'm also a like activist driver of all my community for the children to go to school, and in an area that is isolated, my car was burned by settlers in front of my house. And even like sometimes after the army, following claims of settlers entering with their sheep in front of our houses, we got arrested, and I myself got arrested for fake claims by settlers. So the title of what happened after October 7th, with so many stories, like really so many stories in daily basis. There is like attacks of stealing sheep, attacks of injuring Palestinians, or attacks of stealing, and like not just in Masafer Yatta, in different areas of the West Bank in Area C, the Jordan Valley, for example, next to Jericho and to the north other side of the West Bank. Like in one night, 1,500 sheep belongs to Palestinians were stolen. So this is how, like, can you imagine the family that only have those sheep as a source of livelihood for their children, people who always have been shepherds, and they have no other sources or no place where to live. From one side, after losing this 1,500 sheep, they don't have any way to support their families. And we are talking about tens of members of the families. In the other time, in the same place, they have to stay home, but home is not safe. Home is not, they faced a very horrible attack. They, if they no way to get another sheep, and even if I get another sheep, they will come and steal it. I can't go anywhere because I don't have any place anywhere, and I can't go anywhere because I only want to be a shepherd, and there is no any other place where I can go and can maintain an income for my family. So this is what I can see, that after October 7th, and especially with that came in the time with this current government in power, very right wing government, settler, like who's the ministers of this governments are settlers, and also main organizers of settlers violence against Palestinian communities. Altogether, now Israel has used all the policies of evacuating the Palestinians from Masafer Yatta and from Area C, and now they found out that the settlers spread out all over the land with arming them. And I mentioned that in my piece in New York Times, the distribution of the guns and the campaign of Ben Gvir that give them even to reached out to the hands of minors of the settlers. These all policies, the settler violence, is what they found out that this is the only way that we ethnically recognize the Palestinians, at least from Area C. And like, even the situation is not like what we are feeling today and what we are talking. The situation is not stopping in Area C. If I leave, like, for example, from here, they will follow me there. Like we were talking a few years ago about that Masafer Yatta is facing settlers expansion and settler violence. And Area A, like Yatta, the closest to us, is Area C, is Area A and under the Palestinian Authority. And the settlers should not be going there, and it should be a place where there is no occupation greediness in it. But today and yesterday, they attacked people in Area A, people living in Area A, and the land next to Area A. They tried to steal sheep and destroy the car, and also they injure people. And every week there are people who get arrested from that area. So the the idea is that what is happening against the Palestinian people everywhere in Palestine is either an ethnic cleansing, or what you actually can see what's happening in Gaza. We don't know what we have to do with ourselves, like facing such violence. Like, are we like supposed to leave all our land and our country and leave Palestine because of these policies against us, and where to go? And no, like, this is all together makes us in uh, a situation of terror and violence, and no unsettled situation, that we don't even think of what our future actually looks like. This is the situation. Like, even trying to build a life in your house or where you were born, or in your home, it's always, you are not sure if you're gonna be able to have a future. You are not We as young people are not ready, or think to have start a family or children. Even today, I am at 27, not thinking that there will be what the future looks like if I start family today, or if I get married. That's like, in summary, in brief, about the stories that happening every day. This is the title of what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ali. It's um you've just given us so much detail and so much to hold in what it is to live under this terror, this reign of terror. You described for us the settlers and the way that they're expanding over the land with their agricultural outposts and settlements, which give them access to so much land where they don't need so many people. They don't need so many Israeli settlers. They just need a few, and they take access to so much land, and they are armed. And after October 7th, they were mobilized as soldiers by the Israeli army. And the ones you knew for their violence as settlers then became soldiers, enforcing the law and Israeli policy even more directly on you. And then you talk to us about what it means to live with such complete insecurity where you don't know what tomorrow looks like and you can't plan, and facing so much violence. And thank you, Ali, for telling us all of this and for speaking personally about it and about how it affects you and how it shapes your life. You also talked about the settlers, their January 2025 attack in Tuba, which I wanted to ask you about. There are a few specific attacks I want to ask you about, but in that one, they targeted your family and they specifically, well, I want to ask you, did they, you are known as an activist, and as you just told us, you have a car, had a car and used your car. Masafer Yatta is a spread out and rocky area, difficult to travel between villages, and you used your car to take the children to and from school. As you've told us in the past, and as you've written, the settlement outposts make it dangerous for the children to walk to school because the settlers harass the children. And so you use your car to give them rides. And so do you think that the settlers in January 2025 intentionally burned your car because it was your car and because you used it for your community?
Yes, I think so. And this is what happened. Like the attack lasted for 6 minutes, just when they make sure that the car is burning from all over and the gasoline have spread enough fire all over the car that we cannot stop it. Like they just came for 6 minutes, burn the car, make the sure that the car really got set in fire, and they start to like step back toward the settlement of Maon and the outpost of Khavat Maon. Six settlers, all of them masked, totally committed the crime in a very professional way that even the bottle of the gasoline that they brought to burn the car, they took it back with them to the settlements. One of them was with M16 to make sure that there is no confrontation in case that we disturb the plans of their crime. And yeah, like talking about what happened, it was the 25th of January 2025. It was 2 p.m. and I was sitting with drinking tea in my car. The moment I saw the six masked settlers running from above the hill down to the compound, like houses of my family, and I am a translator and a fixer, and I was waiting a Zoom meeting with a journalist where I gonna take to write stories, and uh, I told him I was gonna take call you in 10 minutes and we can start this meeting. And suddenly I saw the settlers running towards me, towards our houses, and towards where my car was parked. Like I thought that there is like one exit where as you said, like it's all rocky around me, and there is one exit where I can run away with my car, and it's to the direction of where they are actually coming from. They know the area, they know how to do it, and they know which direction they come from, and how they can block me to not run away with the car. So I think I was the first one that I saw them, because from the place where I was sitting in the car, it was clear and obvious to where they were coming from. For a second, like I thought like I'm gonna just like them immediately. Like really, I had the feeling immediately once I saw them that they are coming to burn the car as the first thing. They will destroy everything, but the first priority for them is to sit like I don't know why I didn't think that moment. I really remember very well. I didn't think that they're gonna burn like break the glasses or whatever. I said like they are coming to break to burn the car. They will make the turn the car into an ash. They don't want this car. So I immediately thought that I they gonna burn the car. So I thought like let me run away with the car. But then I saw like we live all together with my uncles, my grandparents, and they have more than 10 children. And I jumped out of the car and I started to scream at my family to gather together and to run away from the front of them, and in order to try to alert my family and to aware them. And then I want to come back to sit in the car, but then I saw my grandparents. They are in their 80s, like very old people, and they said like I will take the car away. Then I saw my grandparents and then I start to say to my grandparents like go further far away. Then I came back to there was like not enough time for me to come back and to take the car away. Once I returned to the door to drive the car away, I saw one guy, one settler with the bottle of the gasoline in a Coca-Cola bottle, and another one with M16 immediately running very fast towards me. So I said like if I try to run with the car while they are blocking the road, either I will be burned inside the car, either will be stoned, either will be shot by the settler with the M16. So I start to film from the beginning and move to join my grandparents. 1 minute later, the whole glasses were shattered and the fire start to rise. So yes, I think that they came to target the car, and the way that they looked, they actually targeted the car because they only set the fire in the car, and what left from the gasoline, they put it on the 10 tons of barley food that feeds the 10 tons of food inside the tent that my family used to feed their sheep. So later, like the police arrived, and there was not easy for the police to identify the settlers because as I said, they were masked. The video we took are not showing any faces of any of them. I think they had gloves for the fingerprints. There was no way to identify any of the settlers. And yeah, in the last, like since 2021 at least, we like I have this car, and as an activist I am a taxi driver for the people, for the grocery delivery, for taking old people and my family to the hospital. Sometimes at 3 a.m., 2 a.m. I rush children to hospital. In the morning I used to take the children in the morning and then wait them for the afternoon to for tens of kilometers in like a stony road, in like a road that there is no actual roads. This car was carrying the whole community. Since it like we are talking today in like in April, and since January we know the gap that the settlers caused to us, and the way how we are actually suffering because my car and myself only full-time activists ready to rush people and to be next to people. We don't do anything except for being alerted to film document harassments and working on the legal and on the legal sides on attacks and taking people to hospitals, even to the city of Hebron. So in many times, like after like inside the firing zone, we are isolated from journalists, we are isolated from doctors. No people are allowed to be here, not internationals, not Israelis, not Palestinians. Even people who are specialized in human rights observe and human rights aid might be under threat of being inside Tuba for the excuse of the firing zone. And they say this, the army might tell them this is a firing zone and you are not allowed to be in a military firing zone. So many journalists and many doctors and many activists have faced arrests, even their vehicles. Because I am a resident and my car is registered in my name, the settlers tried many times for the army to confiscate my car. And the army was saying there is not enough legal excuse to confiscate his car because he lives here and we cannot really do anything about it. So the settlers found a different way to to get rid out of my car. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for describing all of that. It is terrifying to hear it. It's terrifying to hear it, and also what you're describing to us again and again. Each time you're talking, you're describing to us this how focused the settlers are on removing you from your land, on making it impossible to stay, and the settlers with the backing of the army and the policy, even to the point of not allowing anyone to come visit in the firing zone, any human rights observers or journalists or medical professionals. So this way of isolating you so that you would leave. Would you tell us, there have been recent attacks actually in the last couple of weeks in Masafer Yatta, and I wanted to ask you, I'm sorry to ask you to describe more traumatic events to us, but I am going to ask you to tell us a little bit about what happened in Jinba, in Susia, and maybe Al Khair if you want to. And I specifically want to ask you about these. People who are listening might have heard about the Susia attack because it reached the news because of Hamdan Bilal being attacked and then arrested. And he, of course, just won an Oscar for the film No Other Land. And so I wanted to ask you about what things are like in Masafer Yatta now that this film, No Other Land, which is about Masafer Yatta, has gotten so much attention in the world.
You know, like yesterday, I actually just saw a piece of Ahmed Nawaj'a, a young boy, son of Nasser Nawaj'a, and he actually described this in a very beautiful way on 972 magazine, his
Yeah.
article. And he said that, you know, like Ahmed is 50, like a teenager boy from Susia in Masafer Yatta. And he said, we don't want Oscars, we want a protection. So that was the title of his article and the story that he wanted to address to the world.
It's
So
a great,
I
yeah,
agree with Ahmed Nawaj'a about what he said, that we want, yani Hamdan Bellal himself was arrested and abused and even for hours of being handcuffed and blindfolded after settlers attacks his home. And even though he is uh, an Oscar winner, and so this is like the despite that Masafer Yatta, through no other documentary, no other land documentary, became more known to the world thanks to everyone, to the four directors who worked on this and who did hard work on trying to save our community Masafer Yatta from the forced displacements. But unfortunately, the occupation is still going on. And as you mentioned, all of all of these, only the names of the villages that you mentioned, Susia, Al Khair, Janba, and many others in Tuba and other places, all are in Masafer Yatta. They were all attacked after March. And in daily attacks since March until today, they have been attacked more and more and more, despite like telling to the whole world about what is happening in Masafer Yatta. If I want like to share more about the actual horrible attack that happened in Jinba, which was against also my family. Like the physical violence of the videos that we can see, these children are my cousins. This attack happened on the house of my aunt, My aunt, the sister of my father, she is married to a, with and living in Jinba, and she has two sons and one daughter. And on that day, the morning after the settlers attacked the shepherd, they used the excuse that they were actually attacked, even though the video shows how it actually started of one settler coming on an ATV quad, pushing a man onto the ground and his son while chasing and driving his flocks away. And then they used the excuse that this settler was attacked, and they came to with tens of settlers on ATVs and in pickup trucks to attack my aunt and her children. Like her children, they are also teenagers, and she was like a woman with her husband and two children. Suddenly, they woke up, and it was the last day of Ramadan. They are all fasting, and they fractured like their skulls. Until today they have like being still hospitalized, like more than 2 weeks later they are being still hospitalized. And until now, like the attack was against Aziz, the father, and luckily he's doing much better and being healed. Gosai, the one that we can see the video of, about 10 settlers with sticks and stones all together smashing his body. Luckily, he only got a fracture on the arm, and his head and neck and chest was not hurt. But the youngest, Ahmed, who is only 14 years old, he is until today, like I just saw him a few days ago, the last time, and I am very worried about that there will be a disability against this kid, because he was hit on the neck and on the head, and he had an internal bleeding so close to the brain and so close to the ears, where he was like one ear now is not, he doesn't hear with it like very well, and he's been more of that, still traumatized, talking about the psychological part, traumatized, and being like very scared about what's happening. He can't believe, like he doesn't know, like suddenly so above his head. Imagine being laid on the ground, looking above the sky and see only sticks coming on his head and on his neck with masked people. He doesn't know when did they actually show up. After this attack, then like this happened in the morning, and then the army immediately arrested 22 Palestinians. 22 Palestinians after the Palestinians were actually attacked by the settlers in a problem started by the settlers attacking the village. The army arrested 22 people and took them all to the police station. And after at midnight, they released 15 and kept seven to be presented to the court. In the judge decided to release them with 35 35,000 shekels of bail. 35,000 shekels, about 10,000 USD dollars. For, like in this current state of war and current economic situation, where the settlers from one side destroy all our crops, steal our sheep, and leave us without any income and being poor in the same time, after they attack us, we have to find a way to find this $10,000 in order to be built out. And in the night after the attack happened, the day, like the night after the day where my cousins were attacked, the army came in the night and didn't leave any single property in Jinba, like not being broken. In the mosque, the school, the clinic, the houses of the people, their furniture, their windows, their cars, everything, like army in military uniform came and destroyed everything. And through that was clear that they wanted to destroy the cameras that shows the videos of settlers attacking attacking the villages. So what the police said that by the army raiding the village and destroying it and destroying even the security camera, they interrupted the investigation of the police because the police needed these videos to investigate the 7 people who were held in custody, and they need to bring these videos to investigation and to the court. So some of the soldiers were arrested for interrupting the investigation of the army and the investigation of the police. And this is a clear how the army is actually trying to, once they feel that the settlers have actually committed a pogrom, wreaked havoc against the Palestinian community, instead of investigating that and trying to prevent these incidents from going on and trying to give like the security and to stop the violence in the area, they take part in supporting settlers attacks and supporting the settlers from not being brought to accountability. So this is all
Why do
of,
you think the,
sorry.
sorry, Ali.
Yeah, that's it. You can go ahead, please.
Why do you think the police stood up for the Palestinians in Jinba?
I don't, it doesn't like, in general, I mean, I don't think that it was only because there was Palestinians arrested. And what the army did, interrupted the investigation of those who were still in custody. The
Uh-huh.
army the army broke the cameras where the police might needed to decide about the legal situation of the 7 Palestinians arrested.
Okay.
So that explains what happened by arresting some of the soldiers who carried out the attack during the night raid in Jeddah.
Okay.
That's
Thank
what
you.
I think.
Okay. So that's what you described, and we're going to have links to all of this on the website because there's been a lot written, but this multi-part attack in Jinba, in the morning, in the night, the soldiers coming in and wreaking havoc all over the village, destroying all the food, destroying all the furniture, destroying the windows of the school, destroying, as you said, they left no building, no property untouched. And
Yeah.
you talked about your cousin Ahmed, who was so severely injured,
Yeah.
and and you talked a little bit about the psychological impact and his trauma. Can you, how do you support a child who has faced such a terrible attack?
Like we like for especially for Ahmad, we thought that we need an a specialist in a psychologist who had like to speak to Ahmad and also to give him like some comfort and to give him like some, like trying to ensure that he gonna be fine and that he's safe even when he's outside, like especially when he's in the hospital, trying to convince him that he's safe and hopefully this stuff will not happen again. But also like unfortunately, as long as these attacks are going, it's not easy to give like psychological support to children. We lie to children many times that we will make them safe as much as possible, but as long as these harassments are going there, we are always failing because the children are pure humans who can see the reality and can understand and estimate what's going on to them. Even telling them different things about what the reality looks like, they will not believe in it. And the most important is that they believe what we are actually talking about, or not what we are actually talking about, to believe what is actually going around them. They cannot lie, they don't lie, they just see what is going on around them and they actually feel it and react to it. Despite that, like despite these harassments, like in the moment of quietness, we try to take care of our people. We will take care of every human. We take care of our animals. How about our children? So in the moments of, we try to make sure that the children in our families uh, get in like a good shelter as much as we could provide, uh, games, good foods, and good like in general, not just only in the case of Ahmed. It was very hard that Ahmed was shocked after attack, but also all of our children are subjected to be what happened to my cousin Ahmed. So we want to make sure that they don't have to keep this in mind. They know, like when they can go, like even children like Ahmed age or younger than Ahmed, when they go to visit him, he will start to tell them, I was sitting, playing, looking, watching videos on my phone, and then I found a few group of settlers attacking me. The other children will say, wow, well, this also might happen to me. I'm so scared now. So we try not to make them focus on that. We try to make them like the moment, describing the moment when the settlers burned my car. I was so scared. Like my cousins Jury and Jude, they were not able to run outside of the house, and luckily they survived. Even after the settlers hit them with a stone and with a stick on their back and their elbows, and every time we use our all efforts to keep the children safe. But as I said, I would like to sum up the situation. It's very insecure if we say whatever, we lie to them just to make them being able to go to school, make them able to study and to go ahead in their life. But we actually lie so many times to our kids, uh, like to the kids in our families. As long as the occupation and the policies being enforced against us, it's gonna be not safe for the children, and it's gonna be the children might be always not believing what we are seeing, what we are talking, because we see different reality.
Thank you for describing all of that, Ali. This is such an impossible situation. Uh, So in the face of all of this, what does help? Or I guess, how do you, what's the day after an attack like? How do people, and not the children who you're taking care of, but you and the other adults, how do people recover and move on holding all of this trauma? How do you do that?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's like our whole life is, we are always alerted and we are always alarmed of, our whole life is connected, linked to being ready always, that our life is about, we are subject targets of settlers attacks especially, and we are living in a very hard reality where we are facing many different kinds of attacks. To be honest, like saying we are living like like we are talking about like the attacks and the physical attacks, we are very worried about ourselves and about our future, and even not only the day after an actual attack happens, but setting properties on fire and physically injuring people. This is something that I am like day and night worried that something that might happen to anyone here, and that the disability is something that is I am so worried about. if I tell you that there is a way, or there is if how we do it or whatever, I would lie that we have a way to go on. We go on, but
Yeah.
not by forgetting or by being able to being healed from that. There is like even like the moment of you don't even we as being a Palestinian, being born as a Palestinian under the occupation, you don't even have you don't even have the moment to grieve, to mourn, to be sad about what happened, because even the moment after a traumatizing attack and dramatic attack happen, even the 1 hour after that, you must be busy in being ready to be attacked again. So there is like what I want to tell in also in one sentence, there is no moment where you feel to go on after the attack because you might be even attacked. So you are always under attack.
So what helps, Ali? What helps you withstand the threat and stay on your land?
I really don't know. I'm trying really to think of I'm trying to think of one, and I'm trying to think of a source of a protection, a source of security, and even trying to think of a source, one thing that can be stopping settlers from attacking us, or even a sign of an end to this. I'm really right now talking about this, trying to answer this question. I have, I feel like a space inside my skull, trying to catch one.
Hmm.
I want to be hopeful that hopefully no injustice lasts, and we are human, and we want to live on our land in a peaceful way, and we believe that all humans have the right to. So I want to only answer your question by that we have hope, and this is the only thing that no one will be able to steal it from us, and we will be able to keep to remain humans and believing in humanity and working towards improving the humanity. And even though we are being like living under this kind of this injustices, we still believe that all humans have the right and we are part of the humanity, and we have the hope that this will end at some point.
Yeah.
But anything that keeps us stand, anything that make us feel that there is a protection, there is no way. We try every way, but a way that really could be helpful, and a way, if there was a way, this would not last for decades. Of course, we are talking about escalation after this war started, but we as Palestinians living under unsettled life since many decades. If there
Yes.
was a way that things would end, it would be have been already finished because it has been a long time ago. Sorry, I'm not talking about facts, but something about could be a poetic answer. I want to tell actually facts from the ground, but unfortunately, I am not seeing facts that could be unless I mean unless there is something changed that will like stop this. And for me personally, I believe and I hope that always will be a diplomatic, and as like a journalist and human rights activist, I believe no humans must be hurt in any way. Hopefully no humans will be hurt anyhow, and we all will reach into an agreement of justice to that will bring in everybody into into peaceful life and into an end to all of these injustices.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for saying that all so clearly. And also you've brought us so many facts from the ground. You've shared so many facts from the ground. And I'm also asking you about to about how you're navigating all of this, which is so impossible. And so we are going beyond the realm of fact and into you and the complexity of your humanity and how you hold all of this pain and this fear and this, as you said, unsettledness for so many decades, but especially the escalation since the start of the war a year and a half ago, and the direct targeting of your family and the feeling of the possibility of being attacked at any moment. You're holding all of that, and you've just given us so much, Ali, reporting to us, sharing to us what it's like on the ground with all of the rich description of it, and also your experience of it. And that is really a gift that you've given us so much. Thank you for all of that.
Yeah, and I just want to add like one thing that, of course, like when you ask me about like how it keeps like us standing, is like I immediately thought about the imagination that came to my mind, a group of masked settlers throwing my village. That moment, there is no way that this one will prevent this. But for sure, like what kept me standing is every all the people around the world that is working towards ending all of these violence and all of the violations against the human rights. As a human rights activist, I will speak from the care more about highlighting the human rights, and what give us also the hope is every people that works towards ending the injustices against the humans and against the Palestinians, against all the ways that is all the ways of injustices, everybody that raise awareness about it and they try to prevent it, try to stop it. This is what gives us hope. For sure, like we have people who believe that what's going on against us is wrong. So those people giving us life and hope, and we know that a moment where we are stuck without options, without choices, those people will be there to rush to help us, and we saw that in action. I don't want to name groups or like people because I don't want to forget any. All of them here in my heart, and all of them know. Like everybody will hear me talking these words, will know I mean them or not. And only I want to say thanks to them, and thanks to everybody who's in solidarity and who's trying to work to save our, let's say, in general, because like not only in Palestine but on the whole world, and everybody that is trying to save our humanity and our world. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. Thank you for adding that. I hope that this podcast will be something that will increase the numbers and increase the commitment of the people who are standing up for human rights around the world, and especially for human rights of Palestinians, your family, your community, the people of Masafer Yatta. So thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. I'm so grateful to you. And I also want to thank our listeners. Thank you for listening to Ali. Thank you for listening to this episode of Occupied Thoughts. Please make sure to check out our website, www.fmep.org, for resources related to this podcast, for lots of other content related to Palestine and Israel. Make sure that you're subscribed to this podcast so that you stay up to date. You can find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, or Spotify, and you can also watch video versions of our podcast on YouTube. And with that, I am Sarah Ann Minkin signing off until the next episode of FMEP's Occupied Thoughts. Thank you again so much, Ali Awad, for joining us today.